Today we're going to talk about what it's like to form a company, how and why I formed my company, what to expect, and what I would have done differently if I could go back and redo it again. So let's get roaring. What's up, y'all? Ryan here from Café Society. I thought it was time for a change of scenery, so happy holidays to everybody who's watching, and thanks for tuning in. Hey, we provide tips, tricks, and marketing psychology secrets for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and for video professionals, all bundled together with a good healthy dose of film nerd stuff. So what even is Café Society? Where did that even come from? Well, Café Society Creative LLC is the name of the company that my wife and I formed back in 2020, about 8 months after I was laid off from Dutch Bros Coffee headquarters. That's a story for another video. At that point in time, we had been married less than a year, and we were living in a very small old house in our hometown of Grants Pass, Oregon. We had actually both just lost our jobs because of layoffs from the pandemic, and we both decided around that time that corporate 9-to-5 jobs weren't really the path that we wanted to take. It was like all of a sudden we had this chance where we could steer our future in a different direction, and so we decided to go ahead and take that risk and start developing our company. It was like hitting the reset button on life for us. We actually started with the name Leap Industries because we got married on Leap Day in 2020, but I don't think either of us really loved that name, and so we started doing some more brainstorming, and we eventually came up with the name Café Society. So the name kind of came from, we both really liked coffee a lot, me working for Dutch Bros, and I had snagged these sound treatment panels from Dutch Bros when I left that were decorated with these burlap coffee sacks, and so that's where the whole cafe thing came from. And then society, because we wanted to cultivate a society of creative people, so Café Society. We did some brainstorming and we came up with 3 pillars for our company. We wanted to innovate, inspire, and educate with our company's content. So then the name Café Society Creative Marketing was thrown out. We both really loved it, and so I did some research, and when I found that that name wasn't taken, we jumped on it and bought the LLC for it right away. We'll talk about that in a bit. You can check out what Café Societies meant pertaining to the 1920s and 30s by checking out our very first video here. So originally the plan was for us to be like a full service marketing firm. We would do everything from branding and graphic design all the way through the video production and even into the marketing and posting on social platforms and all of that stuff. And we quickly found out that that was way too much work for just 2 people to manage. So we had to reevaluate what we are actually capable of doing. So my first action point here is, if you're thinking about starting a company of your own, probably the first thing you should do is sit down and write out exactly what your company does and kind of evaluate what you are capable of actually pulling off before you start trying to operate. Sit down and write out exactly what it is you want to accomplish with your company. Do some goal setting exercises, read some books about business and entrepreneurship, and just make sure you have a plan first. Are you going to provide a service, or are you going to have a product that's going to help or entertain people? Or maybe you're doing consultation type stuff. By the way, I'm not an expert on any of this by any means. I never went to business school. I don't have any certificates or anything that signifies that I actually know what I'm talking about with this stuff. I am reading a lot now, just trying to learn how to do this entrepreneur thing on my own. And the stuff that I'm sharing here on YouTube is just information that I've picked up from other books and podcasts and other YouTube channels like this. I didn't really have any role models or anybody like that in my life to look up to and to bounce ideas off of, so I'm sort of winging it a little bit. So I'm sure you'll see both successes and failures play out on this channel. That's just part of the game. So my step 1 would be to make a business plan. If you don't do this one crucial step, then you don't really have a metric to measure whether or not what you're doing is successful or not, right? So if your company sells knitted scarves on Etsy, and let's just say one of your goals is to sell 50 scarves per month. Well, then if you don't meet that quota, then you weren't successful that month. Now you can go and reevaluate what you need to make that quota next month. Do you need to hire an extra person for help, or do you need to invest in some kind of knitting equipment that can speed up the process? Or maybe you need to go back and do better marketing for what you're trying to sell. Do you get what I'm saying? You need a plan, or you're just stabbing in the dark. Also, you can always set new goals later on down the road, but it's important to go into it with some kind of plan. So in our business, the next step after we figured out what we were going to do was to acquire the business license. We went with an LLC, and that stands for a limited liability company. And for tax purposes, we chose to do a pass-through partnership. So aside from the LLC making you seem more legit, like a legally recognized company. An LLC basically just means that if you ever get into a legal battle with somebody, they can't come after your personal like things or assets. Like they can only come after the company's assets. So it's just an extra layer of protection for you if you were ever to get sued. And let's just hope that never happens. The whole LLC part, this is where I wish I would have consulted a professional tax person first. From my understanding, partnerships are different if you're a married couple, because I'm pretty sure they classify a married couple as a single entity, especially if you're filing jointly. Like, I'm not even sure if that was necessary. This is all complicated tax stuff. I didn't really know this, and I went in with a regular pass-through partnership, which just means that for the tax season, they calculate the taxes off of the income of the employees, which is me and my wife, instead of the entire business entity. And then of course later, Tori decided to start her own company doing her online clothing resale stuff. So she really doesn't have that much to do with Café Society anymore anyways, aside from being like moral support for me and just like a person to bounce ideas off of. But since she's still technically a co-owner of the company, that means I have to send out a W-9 to her for this year's tax season. So seriously, consult a professional if you're planning on setting these things up. It's going to help a lot with the confusion. I may do another video about how to set up LLCs and stuff at a later time. Also, you totally don't even have to have an LLC to do business at first. If you're not sure if this is something that you want to like majorly pursue, like maybe if it's just like a side hustle or something that you're doing to put a little extra cash in your pocket every month, I don't know if it's really necessary to go through all the trouble of setting up an LLC and all that. But don't just take my word as the solid truth. Like, do your own research, seek out your own professional help if you're thinking about setting up your own company. So later on, the company's goals changed quite a bit, and I went to pretty much just doing video editing work and some like visual effects and motion graphics stuff. And that's pretty much how I've made a living for the last year. The cool thing is, like, we were intentionally kind of vague with our company title. So like Café Society Creative. Creative is a pretty subjective term. So technically, I think that means that I can probably do most of the passive income stuff that we're trying to do under that same company entity, as long as it falls under creative or video work somehow. So any books we create, video content we make, or any future digital products that we sell could all be under Café Society Creative. I think even Tori's YouTube content that she's producing for her business could even fall under that if she wanted to. I'm not entirely sure on that one. This is something to keep in mind when you're setting up your company, because when you apply for an LLC, you have to state what exactly it is that your company does within your articles of organization when you file with the Secretary of State. If your company does a bunch of different things that aren't like specifically related to each other, that might mean that you need to get multiple LLCs for different operations. Like, for example, I think Dutch Bros actually has like 4 or 5 different business entities that are operating under the same roof. They've got separate LLCs for like the corporate like HQ people, separate one for like the regular baristas and the stand people. Boersma Brothers Roasting, like the coffee roasting, has its own, and then Dutchware had its own. And I think there was one more, but I can't remember it right now. It might have been something to do with the like events, the live events. Anyways, we probably won't be getting to that level of big business here. So right now, let's just worry about whether or not we actually need an LLC for what we're doing. The next thing that we did was we wrote out the goals that we wanted to accomplish for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, etc. Which changed recently, of course, for me, but that's okay. Most entrepreneurs will try a bunch of different things until something sticks. But those were our measurable goals for that period. We did not meet our 1-year goal, technically speaking, but we had also just sold our house in February and then like made the move up here to Portland. And so just like life stuff was getting in the way. So things just happen sometimes in life and you can't always dedicate 100% of your time to something. Also, it took like a good 5 months maybe for my work to really get going up here. And it ended up being way too much at once. Like, I made a lot of money in September and October of this last year, but it just wasn't worth the 80 to 100 hours a week I was spending on it. Nights and weekends, you know, not being able to be with my wife just because of these deadlines I had to hit, you know? It only took one of those seasons for me to realize that that is not what I want out of my life or career, just to be like a slave to deadlines. The good thing is, there's a lot of work available in what I do right now. So I'm just trying to figure out the balance right now of how I can take maybe like 1 at the tops 2 projects at a time, and then dedicate the rest of my work week to trying to figure out these different passive income streams. So the final step in this process for me was creating our business bank account. You'll want to separate your business bank account from your personal bank account. Just trust me on this. It really helps to keep your income statement separate from your personal finance. And this is going to make tax season a breeze and not so much of a headache for you. And I was really anxious about this at first because there's like a million different banks that are offering accounts for different reasons with different perks and things, and it's just a lot to take in. So after doing a couple of months of research, I decided to go with an online banking app called Novo. Shout out to the YouTube channel, my friend Andy, for giving me that suggestion. So what I liked about Novo over the other ones is Novo is geared more towards like small business owners, and their app provides tools and things for you like being able to send and track invoices. You can connect it to services like PayPal and Stripe so that you can accept credit card payments, and you can create separate bins within the account for like money that you want to set aside for like taxes or whatever, things like that. And it won't let you accidentally dip into that fund if you have it in that bin. It's really good stuff. Also, the app just works really well and looks nice, so that's a plus. They'll even give you a cool looking debit card for signing up. Ching-ching. I know that sounded like a plug, but this video is not sponsored by Novo or anything, just for the record. So that's pretty much where we are right now, just trying to become financially free. Later on, I'll fill you in on some of the things that we're trying out to generate passive income and whether or not they're working. Right now, one of the things that we're looking into is creating books and ebooks, since Tori and I both really love writing. So if that's something that interests you and that's something you'd like to learn about, I'll probably break down how we do it in a later video. So for now, let's quickly recap the steps you should take when you're starting a business. Number 1 is decide what kind of business you want to be. And it's okay if you change it later on. You just need somewhere to start. Number 2 is form a plan about how your business will operate. Number 3 is decide whether or not you want an LLC or if you need an LLC. And keep in mind that once you buy that LLC, you're going to be stuck with that name. So make sure you do some research and you like your name. Number 4 is write out your 1 year, your 5 year, and your 10-year goals for your company. This can be, how much money you want to make that year. It could be how many followers you want to gain on your social channels. It could be you want to sell X amount of products. Just set these goals. And the 5th one is to get yourself a separate business account. You're going to be able to do this a lot easier once you have a LLC, because they're going to give you the government is going to send you back an employer identification number or an EIN, and that's how you're going to be able to get a business banking account. And if you don't have an LLC, you could just open up another normal checking account or something at a different bank. It could be the same bank that you use normally, but I was under the impression that it was better to not keep all of your eggs in one basket. I don't know if that's true or not. It's up to you. Cool, well, that's all I got for this video. If you enjoyed it and you made it this far, why not go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to this channel so you can follow along when we release more videos like this. And if you're just starting out with your company, just remember being an entrepreneur is hard. Like if it was easy, then everyone would be doing it, right? But I think the reward and the lifestyle that comes with it is worth it. It's okay to have failures. It's all part of the learning process. The CEO of Dutch Bros, Trav Boersma, always used to say this quote, which actually came from the author John C. Maxwell, saying, "The more you do, the more you fail. The more you fail, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the better you get. So always fail forward. Let failure propel you further into whatever your next endeavor is going to be by using that failure as a learning experience, because experience is always valuable." All right, blessings, and I'll see you later.